Welcome to Dax Makina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks. Thank you guys for joining us on another edition of Dax Makina. In the studio with United is Steve Wildman Monrodis and Robbie Rip Rains. Boys, how y'all doing tonight?
Couldn't be better, brother. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Unfortunately, Count Docula won't be with us tonight. He is on a much-needed evening out with his lovely bride. So Doc is here in spirit, but I know he's having a good time, so we won't begrudge him that. Robbie, I understand you had a little excitement today. Can you talk about it a little bit? Or should you?
Well, I mean, I won't go into any specific details, but it was almost a bad day for three pretty much innocent people. We had two little idiots that decided they wanted to act like they were little thugs and come up behind a vehicle and shoot out the back glass, and probably within an inch of hitting a child in the back seat and then hitting the dad who was driving. So, luckily nobody was hurt. The little boy got some little cuts on his head from where the glass flew by him. Of course, mom was scared to death, and it was me and my partners were not exactly happy. It's one of those situations you wish you could have found them right then and there, but you know we'll get them eventually.
I hope you get them and get them soon, because shooting at an innocent family just driving down the road ain't no excuse for that crap.
It was all stupid. They were driving slow, and the dad went around and passed them in a legal passing zone, and it pissed them off, and they decided they were going to act that way. So, wasn't even a true road rage situation. They got passed, and they didn't like it.
Idiots. Unfortunately, the world's full of them anymore. That's why one reason I'm glad I'm out of the game. But two, I worry about you still being in the game. And Steve deals with the same kind of idiots at the hospital. I mean, when I was working the security detail, man, it wasn't nothing for us to get 3 or 4 calls a night from medical staff who were having problems with somebody that just wanted to come in there and be an a-hole to the staff.
Yeah. Well, Declan had 7 calls on Thursday night. Yeah, thankfully none of them were in my urgent care, but he's
a scrapper.
He was a little bbit done with the Southwest Missouri Living Brain Donor Fund.
Thomas Gishwind says, "Sure, don't miss the game. I miss some of the players, but not the game. I miss some of the people I used to work with. I was just talking to my old lieutenant about that just a few minutes ago. We were texting. He sent me a picture of him standing with some of our old crewmates, and I was like, yeah, I miss those guys. I don't miss the job, but I miss those guys."
Yeah, I kind of feel that. I mean, wasn't in law enforcement for long enough to build that kind of bond, but even my coworkers in the hospital, when I'm gone on vacation, I'm like, I'm not going to miss this place. I want to miss you assholes. That's how it boils down to.
From the comments, it looks like Dark Waters is in the chat. That is awesome. Yeah, good to see you, sir. Excellent show the other night. You were awesome. Knocked it out of the park. We absolutely had a blast, and I can't wait to do it again. I
hate that I missed his visit. Unfortunately,
it was a good show. It was 3.5 hours, DA?
Yeah, 3.5. David By says, wasn't he at the Ozarks conference? Yes, he was. He's popped in, came in, and picked up a couple of books and had me sign some stuff. And I think you were one of the ones we were out there talking with him at his truck. That was Lieutenant Jenkins. He's retired now, but just big a firecracker as he ever was. I'm probably going to have him on the show here soon. We're planning on doing an episode about the bald knobbers of Missouri. If you guys know anything about history of the area, there was a group called the Bald Knobbers, and they got the name because they used to meet on what was called Bald Knob Mountain. And it was a group of vigilantes. They were mostly ex-Union soldiers, they got tired of the corruption and the stealing that was going on all over Southwest Missouri, because it was pretty much just a lawless area. And initially they were founded as a vigilante group to try to put an end to it, but by the time it ran its course, they had gone the other direction. They'd turned into outlaws themselves. But one of the most famous incidents is 3 of them were hanged just about 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now, in Ozark, Missouri. And it's a really interesting historical bit. We're going to do a show about that because it's a really cool bit of Ozarks history. Plus, it plays right into some of the haunting stories that go around the Ozarks as well. So hopefully, we'll be doing that soon. And I know Lieutenant Jenkins is really into the bald knobber legends, and I think he'd be a great one to have on for that. Him and I were talking about that not too long ago. Steve Patton says he still kind of is. Yeah, you ain't wrong, man. There's been a lot of crazy crap going on here in Springfield just this last few weeks. There was a thing on the news. There was a lady who was walking from the bus stop to a store, just minding her own business, and some guy walked up and random dude, you know who he was, stabbed her in the stomach with a pair of scissors and ran off. They have yet to catch the guy. She survived, but she didn't have a clue who the guy was. He just walked up and stabbed her.
Simple math.
You told me that story the other night when you called and woke me up that I thought I dreamed the conversation, didn't you?
No, that actually happened, man.
No, I mean that you told me that night, though, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that I dreamed the conversation because I was asleep when you called.
You can't swear up and down you weren't asleep when you called.
I know, but
I felt bad.
I woke up next morning. I'm like, why did I have a dream about me and DA having a phone conversation? So I sent him a message. I said, "Did you call me last night?" And he was like, "I did." And I said, "Did I say anything crazy?" He goes, "No, not really." I was like, "Okay," because I thought I dreamed the conversation. He says, "Oh, so you were asleep?" I said, "Yeah, apparently."
Yeah, neither Doc or I had been able to reach Robbie all day. We'd texted him multiple times and he didn't respond. Turns out, after he got out of court, he just never turned his phone back on.
That'll do it.
I silenced it for court and just didn't ever think about it. So
I'm surprised you heard it enough to answer it when I called you.
Well, I think when I set it on my cradle, I think even if it's silenced, because my alarm will still go off, but I think it activates the phone for stuff, for things like that. So it was on my cradle, and that's why I was able to hear it.
Well, for all those of you who don't know, Robbie was just here in Missouri just this past weekend. That's why we didn't have a show on Saturday. And I think that's part of why Robbie was so dang tired, is because he'd driven a lot of miles.
It wasn't jet lag; it was Silverado lag.
He'd driven what, about 1,800 miles?
Yes,
in
well,
3
it was over
3 days on
1,400.
very little sleep.
Because it was I think it was, I'm gonna say the mileage on what it said was 747 each way. So
1,500 miles.
Yeah.
That's a lot of miles to log in one weekend.
That and hanging out with us idiots, that'll wear you out.
That will definitely do it. But one of the reasons Robbie came in is so we could end up doing some filming together. And if you guys are following us on Facebook, you probably would have noticed the Facebook Live we did for about better part of an hour on last Friday night. A week ago yesterday that we did it. And we found some really interesting stuff. We went down to the old Joe Bald abandoned campground down by Kimberling City. And we also went down to Blunk Road, which those of you who are familiar with my Lakeview Man series have no Lakeview Man Beast of Blunk Road. Well, there's a reason I set a book down there. That place is creepy as hell. So tonight we thought we'd talk about what we found, because what we found was pretty surprising.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Well, Robbie had not had a chance to go down to Joe Bald. I've taken Doc down there, and David By, who's in the chat, I took him down there when he was in Springfield. Before we really dig into what happened, I'd like you guys to hear firsthand what Robbie's impression was of the Joe Bald campground, because Steve and I have been down there quite a few times.
Well, and y'all both know me. You know that I'm not going to be the one that said it's scary, because it wasn't scary. But things can be creepy and give you an off-putting feeling without you being scared. And it definitely is one of those places where you're like, okay, your head needs to be on a swivel. That was the initial thought when we and DA did the thing. He said, all right, I'm not going to tell you how far away we are, but I want you to tell me if you start feeling off and when you start feeling off, so we can. He said, just an experiment type thing. And we were maybe a quarter of a mile away at that point when I said I start feeling kind of edgy, like I feel like we're getting in the, what,
in the thick of things.
In the thick of things. And there's yeah, thereabouts about the same area that Doc started feeling it. And like we always say, that goes back to that situational awareness that we always talk about. So we pull in, and immediately, to me, it feels like we're almost in, and I know this is cliche to say this, but it feels like you're driving into the scene in some kind of horror or thriller movie, because it's I don't know how to describe it if you've never been in a place like that. It's hard to put into words. And like I said, not that it was, oh my God, I'm scared to death, or it's just a weird feeling, almost like it's hanging in the air. It's not like you just can't put into words how it makes you feel. Like I said, it just, every little sound you want to turn and look, and I don't know if that's a mental thing because of what you're thinking and what you're maybe expecting, but it's just overwhelmingly eerie. So we get there, and it's kind of hard to just explain this stuff, or as Doc would say, I'm gonna explain you, but it's hard to explain this stuff without getting into what we are about to get into. But you start seeing things right off the bat that are just like, what? That, but what? And it's just, you can't explain it unless you go there. And it's just, but personally, I enjoyed the living hell out of myself for that. I was, you can ask DA, I was like, DA and Noah were like, come back. We're getting too far away. Come back. Because I was like a dog
pretty far out there.
I was like a dog off
by
leash. I was just, but I'm used to doing stuff by myself. I'm not used to it. So I just, I see something, I'm going to investigate it. I'm looking and all stuff. I don't know. I lost count how many times Noah's like, Robbie, we're getting kind of far, bud. Yeah. Hey, we're getting kind of spread out, bud. Come on. So, because I was like a kid in the candy store. I was just like, I want to be here. I want to find something. I want to experience something. Stupid adrenaline junkie. I won't jump out of an airplane, but by God, put me in the middle of the woods with a possible Dogman or Bigfoot, and I'm all over it. So,
I love it.
Well, Thomas, I've never been to Indiana, so I don't know. But if you think there's places like that there, then yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's definitely some places out there at Joe Bald.
Yeah, there's kind of an energy to it, when you're out there. It's not really scary, but
that's a good
energy to it.
Good terminology, Steve. Energy, like I said, it feels like it's hanging in the air. It's just like, and you can hear things, crickets and bugs and things like that, but not in the general vicinity where you're at. You can hear them like way off in the distance, but not where you're at. It's like you're in and I hate to use the word, but it's like you're in a dead zone.
Yeah, there's a bubble of silence.
That's why I was going to say the old Maxwell Smart, the cone of silence.
Well,
but that's what it feels.
You know what the place reminds me of? I think, the Stephen King movie, The Langoliers. when the plane lands in that place where matches won't light and gas won't burn and everything is just kind of flat. That's the way that place feels. It's got that just, it's like you imagine like the colors are washed out and everything. It's just bizarre.
Yeah,
We were there in the daytime and it just washed out.
It felt like you were in almost like grayscale.
Yeah, that's it. And
that is a good way to put it.
Yeah, because I've been in umpteen million forests and places at night, but you can still see the colors. You can still feel, but that it was like everything was just washed out, like you said. It's like in grayscale, not black and white, but not vibrant colors either. Just freaking weird. And he took me up there to where y'all did your video for the book and all that stuff, and was pointing out the tree and all that, whatever y'all. And he pointed out your tree too, Steve. But and like I said, until you're there, standing in that place and actually experiencing it, people can listen to us talk about it, all this, and throw out all these great adjectives to describe it. But until you're there, you got to go there to experience. But that's just driving in there in the first time. That's not even getting into what we ended up finding. And like I just told Big Vic, he asked if we went morning, dusk, or night, all the above. We were pretty much there at all the times, and even going in broad daylight. It was when
this is the little concrete bridge where Steve and I filmed. If you look directly across that little bridge and to the left, you'll see a tree over on the left side between the two trees in the foreground that's kind of leaning a little bit. That's the tree over in that area, was where that thing was behind the tree that Steve saw. That Steve and I saw, that Steve peed on his tree.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were filming on the near side of that bridge, and I had to pee, so I did the polite thing, and I went to the far side of the bridge. Figured we wouldn't walk over there. Yeah,
well, let me find the other image. Let me find that other image real quick. As I want to show you, the main thing I wanted to show the comparison here is look at the metal poles on that bridge, how thick they are. They're about 3-inch diameter iron pipe. I mean, they're welded together. They're solid. You can't shake those. They're set down in that concrete. They're pretty damn solid. But here's what we found in another section. There's another one of those. Where's that? There's another one of those little crossings like that. And I've got to find the picture. I just had it a second ago. Sorry about that.
Them's want to know if Doc was under that bridge. Now Doc didn't make it that time. He was pretty much snowed in, so they had at least an inch of snow.
Yeah, he's more of a hobbit than a troll.
Yeah. Inch of snow, he needs snowshoes for it. Poor guy.
Oh, dang it. I can't find that stupid picture. Anyway, I'll let you guys talk for a second while I find that picture, because I just had it.
Yeah, so like I said, even in broad daylight, going into it still had that same. The colors are back, kind of, sort of. It's still kind of bland. And if you're standing and you're looking at the lake is beautiful. It's gorgeous. The scenery around the lake and all that stuff, it's gorgeous. And then the minute you turn back around and start looking into those campsites, it's like going from the to ooh, because it's just it literally is like crossing over a line from everything is normal to okay, where the heck did what portal did I just step out of? Sorry for the
Another thing that I noticed too in the area that we were filming and you guys were investigating in, the sound doesn't carry right there either. It's bizarre. Like
Yeah.
It is weird.
it's like like when you have a conversation in a snowstorm, everything echoes so bad because of how the snow reflects things. It's like the opposite. Like nothing
Like it
reverberates. It's
absorbs
just
everything.
flat sound. It absorbs everything. It was just flat sound. And you could be standing 10 feet from the guy next to you, and it sounds like you're in a
Well, yeah,
muffled room or something.
and I had already showed DA and Noah a few tricks, like tracker type stuff, and I told DA, I said, instead of yelling back and forth, if I need to get your attention, I'm gonna do that real loud. Well, he was probably 100 feet away from me, and
Yeah, about
me and
that.
Noah when we found that, and I'm sitting there and I'm smacking my chest. He never heard us. Noah had to actually walk over it. Yep, look at that.
Yeah, look how twisted that is. I couldn't do that. I mean, I
And
took multiple pictures. You can see the ditch that runs underneath that thing. There's no way a car got through that ditch to do that. I would have bottomed my car out and got it stuck there. And even if they had a big 4x4, they still would have done damage to the vehicle, a significant amount of it.
even my truck, we talked about that. Even my truck, my front bumper would have barely been over the top of that concrete. And y'all both saw my truck and how, it's not like jacked up, but it's a 4x4. So
Yeah.
but I even hung on that.
And this
After
one, you
DA
can
took
see
those
where it's bent almost double right there.
Yeah. Even in the weakened stage it's in, and I'm 260 pounds, I hung on that right after DA took that picture, and it didn't budge.
That's one of the old campgrounds. Sorry.
Yeah, cheery, isn't it?
But just look at, even in those pictures, the colors to me just look washed out. And and we noticed it that night when we went in. I'm looking over to the right because I'm in the passenger side, and DA's driving. He said, "What the?" And I turn around and look. He said, "What did that to that rail?" And that thing's laying over like that. And you're like, something strong is all you can say. Because
Yeah.
there. And when we went back during the day, I went and looked physically. There's no tire tracks down in that ditch. There's no scuff marks on the concrete that indicates a vehicle hit it. There's no dents on that side of the pipe that would indicate that the vehicle hit it. All the little tick marks that you would look for if you're investigating a traffic accident to look and see. No paint transfer, no nothing. It's just like something grabbed it and bent it over.
Yep. There's one of the campsites. You can see those are concrete picnic tables and fixtures that are still sitting out there in the woods. If you look closely at this one, and I'll zoom in on it, that concrete is busted. It takes a hell of a lot of force to snap concrete. And over here, you can see the little concrete table that was sitting there is busted to hell. I'm not saying people couldn't have done this. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is it would have taken a hell of a lot of force and probably a sledgehammer, and there are not marks on this from being hit with hammers. There just aren't any.
Well, and you got to think, why the hell would you want to do it? The amount of time it would take, even if you're just trying to be a vandal.
Right. That's a lot of work to break that much.
Northwoods is on the board.
What did he say? I missed it.
He said, even my ex sitting on that would not do that much damage.
Jeff Bridges says, looks like 2-inch galvanized. I think it's 3-inch because it was easily that big around.
Yeah, it's about 3-inch, Jeff, but it is galvanized. You're right.
Yeah, definitely galvanized pipe, and it's heavily welded together. We also found some other bizarre stuff while we were there. First thing let's talk about that night. We went down along the shore of the lake right there on Table Rock Lake, And if you guys were watching the Facebook Live, you would have seen this. I have not been able to capture any images from the Facebook Live. It will not let me download the video, but I'm going to keep trying. Hopefully we can get some stills. But you only didn't get to see it really very well anyway because it was by flashlight in the dark. But we found some very good tracks right along the water's edge, and I'll let Robbie tell you about that because he's the one that found them.
Okay, so for those of you who watched, you saw as soon as we got there and got out of the vehicle, or not as soon as we got there, but as soon as we got out of the vehicle, I immediately went and started looking because I could hear DA over my shoulder kind of narrating what I was doing. So I'm looking for tracks, any kind of signs, anything. And the entire shoreline where we were walking around is nothing but those little, I call them river rocks, those little round pebbles and stuff like that. So, finding footprints and that stuff's really hard. But we were working our way up and, kind of zigzagging back and forth and just looking for anything, looking in the trees, looking for eye shine, just anything we could find. And I'll kind of skirt over some of the other stuff we found before we found this because we're talking about the footprints. But we did find some stuff before that. But after we found that stuff and worked our way back down, DA said, "Look, there's some mud." And this, I want to say this was maybe a 15 by 25 foot area of mud. And that's the only mud that was anywhere at all.
Yeah, it wasn't a big section.
Everywhere.
Everything else is covered by pea gravel.
Yep. Or those big shale rocks or stuff like that, or the concrete parking lot or asphalt parking lot. So when DA said, I said, "Yep, I see it. That's where I'm headed." Because that's a track trap. Because if anything has been in there, it's going to leave tracks. So, and it was kind of weird mud because there was you could step right here and it would be completely firm where you could stand on it, and you would step 2 inches to the left or right and you would sink 3 inches or more, even a foot.
I sink up over my shoe in one spot.
But it was like you go from hard to spongy to all that stuff. So obviously it was a good track trap, and I'm looking down and I'm seeing footprints and seeing trails or tracks in there, and most of them, you can tell there's boot prints and things like that. And I'm looking around and I think DA and Noah was probably 25 feet away from me as I'm looking. And DA he was watching me intently because he knew that's what I was looking for. And he saw me stop and kind of start looking down and moving around one specific area. And he said, "Did you find something?" I'm like, "Yeah, boys, come on over here." And so DA gets over there, and I think Noah shined a light on it. But literally, we found a 16 to 18 inch track, beautiful, right in the middle of all this stuff. And there was boot prints around it, and we found one other track. I can't remember if it was behind or in front of that one, but there was two really good tracks that you could say, yeah, complete outline. DA shined a light. You could see the impression of the toes. I mean, it was perfect. So, and this was probably,
they were about 16 to 18 inches long.
Yeah. And I got an 11 and a half. I wear a size 11 and a half. And I think Noah wears what, 13?
I think it was a 13 and a half.
And it dwarfed mine and Noah's foot.
And I'm not saying it's impossible. Somebody was running around down there with a massive bare footprint. I'm not saying there wasn't large-footed humans out there, but the odds of them running around a rocky shore in December in Missouri, where that water temperature was probably about 40 degrees, I seriously doubt there was anybody running around without shoes on.
So we find that DA's still got the live stream going, and we're looking around trying to see if we can find anything else. Then DA finds a big canine print, pretty good size canine print. I'd say probably diameter of a softball.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I'd say, maybe 5 to 7 feet away from the bigger footprint that I found. And like I said, there, and I'm not saying, when I say boot prints, I mean combat style boots like I was wearing. Not my prints because I knew where I walked. Not DA's because I saw where he walked and I watched where Noah walked. So these were tracks that I found before they even came around there. Mm-hmm. So there was separate boot prints. Then there was those 2 big footprints. Pardon the pun.
Big footprints, not big footprints. We're not claiming they were big footprints, but they
were big footprints.
They were very large bear footprints. We're just going to say that.
And not Bruin bear. Bear. No sock bear.
Yeah, B-A-R-E.
Yeah. And then DA found the canine footprint.
When we first arrived in the park, one of the first things we noticed is there were 2 trucks down there, which is rare to find vehicles in that park after dark. They were both just like plain, like utility vans, and they on the side of both of them it said 24-hour service. It didn't say a business name. It didn't have a phone number. It just said 24-hour service.
One of them was mobile, and one of them was parked.
Yeah, one of them was leaving the park when we first got there, and the other, which was a bigger van, like a large, like size of maybe a UPS truck.
Yeah.
It was down there, and it stayed the whole time we were there.
Was there prior to our arrival, and still there when we left.
So while Robbie found these tracks, I found a canid track. He found 2 a large bear, B-A-R-E, footprints. Excellent tracks, very castable. Unfortunately, we didn't have any casting material with us, and it was late at night. Robbie said, well, how are we going to cast these? I said, well, we have to pick up some plaster of Paris and come back first thing in the morning. So we made sure we knew exactly where these tracks were, which is an easy to find. And we came back the next morning. And this is what we found when we got there.
And it's not like when we say we came back the next morning, it's not like we got out there at 11:30.
Right.
We got out there at right at 8 o'clock, 8:30, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, something like that. So this is the area where the tracks were. And I get a little better view of this. You can see that somebody deliberately drove over that entire area.
That's
the exact spot, which was right there where you can see my cursor. That's where those tracks were, and they drove over that thoroughly.
That was my pissed off stance in the picture before that.
Yeah.
Because I was not happy.
No, we were not. And you can see where they drove in, cut their wheels, and then back out at a different angle to do as much damage as they could. And there were no tracks leaving the area other than the way they came in. So they drove down there simply to destroy those tracks and then left.
Steve, it was the canine track. We're getting to that. He's got pictures of that.
Okay, well, the canine track that we found at the water's edge was obliterated. But we got to looking around. And the night before, if you watch the live, you will see at one point, I said, I've got eye shine over here. And I'm shining my flashlight and I'm trying to film with my camera at the same time. And I could see through these bushes that there was a set of eyes watching me that was easily as tall as I am, if not more. And it was moving, and I could see it like doing this number around a tree. I couldn't really see the silhouette of whatever it was. I could see the eyes, and it was watching me very closely. And as we started getting closer, it started moving to my left or its right. And then it hit a section and just disappeared. And I said, I don't know where it went. It's not down there. And Robbie stopped me and goes, it's still down there. I'm like, well, let's get closer. He said, well, I don't want to get too much closer because all we're carrying is pistols. Because we knew it was still down there. It could not have gone. We didn't hear it moving away. There's nowhere it could have gone. So the next morning we go back down to this area and I find the exact spot where this thing was. And there's actually a small depression behind those bushes. So whatever it was walking in this depression had to have been much taller than me because its eye shine was easily my height or higher when it was walking in this depression. So probably 7 footish. 7 and 8 feet, maybe. I mean, it was pretty good size. And I will show you guys pictures of that depression. Let me bring them up. Oh no, that's on video. I can't get the video to play. I can, but I can't get the sound to play. So let me pull up the video, but you won't be able to hear what I'm saying. Anyway, go ahead, Robbie. Tell us about that.
Okay, part. So after we figure out that we can't cast these tracks, which really royally ticked the three of us off, we just start kind of walking around looking, and Noah and I kind of worked our way back up towards the ridge, which would have been above where DA saw the eye shine the night before. And I'd kind of, gave them a little brief. Okay, this is kind of some of the things you want to look for when you're tracking, talking about what we call fresh meat. When you look at a break and you see something, you want to know if it's fresh, you go back a little ways down, break that same branch and compare the color and all that stuff. Noah took this like a duck to water, and he was just like, okay, cool. So I worked my way up a little bit further than him, and I see it just as he's saying, hey, look, is that? I said, yep, you are on target, brother. You can see where something is, that old, what we call straw grass or broom grass, but just that tall yellow colored broom grass. But you can clearly see where something has made a trail walking through it. So Noah and I walk up to the edge, and you look, and there's this little draw that comes down. And I told Noah, I said, that's perfect for something that wants to move around and not be seen from the road or whatever. I said, something's going to use that draw. So we worked our way down to that draw. And I say worked our way down. It wasn't like it was way down, but we got down into it. We start following that draw, and I see a log laid across the trail. So I'm down looking at see if anything is stepped across the trail or anything. And I'm not 100% sure if this was, but I found what looked like maybe the ball of a heel, probably about 2.5 inches into the ground. Noah, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it's probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches into the ground. So it looks like whatever it was possibly stepped up to get up on the log, but their heel hit first and picked itself up over the log. So as I'm looking at that, I look up, and there's a little small cedar tree. It's probably about 3 inches in diameter. So I look up I'm 5'9", and I got long arms, so I had to reach up pretty good ways above my head. If anybody knows anything about the old cedar trees, they've got that real thin bark that kind of is, you can pull off little strips all the way around it. So I look up, and I told Noah, I said, all right, what do you see right there? And he said, well, it looks like something's rubbed the bark off that. So we moved down a little ways, and I flipped some bark off, and I said, all right, now tell me what you see. And he said, it's the same color. I said, right, so what's that mean? He said, it means that's fresh. I said, there you go. So something had grabbed up pretty high, probably about, like I said, I'm 5'9", so it's probably about 7 foot off the ground. So we work our way over that log, and we come to what was basically a man-made game trail. It's just a little trail that they cut that comes out of the parking lot area, works around that brush, and goes back around to the lake. So look down, deer tracks, hog tracks, raccoon, it just, everything you can imagine that's using that game trail going down to the water. So I said, yep, I said, we're on a man-made game trail. And Noah said, look up. And I look up, and I look right in front of me, and there's this big den, for lack of a better term, basically like some briars and just a thicket that is perfectly, got a hole perfectly hollowed out that you can crawl into.
Yeah, something could crawl into
and be totally camouflaged. Well, we get DA's attention, get him over there, and we're all sitting there talking. And I said, well, let's just do an experiment. So I crawled in there, and I got down on my hands and knees and kind of spread my arms out to my side like this, and I hunched down as far as I could. I told DA and Noah, I said, walk up the trail a little ways and then tell me when you can see me. Now, keep in mind, they knew exactly where I was at. I was wearing camouflage pants, and I think I still have my black hoodie on at that time. So and my ball cap. They knew where I was at, knew exactly where I was at, and exactly where to look. DA and Noah walk about 15 yards back up the trail. DA turns around and says, "Dude, you're gone. I know where to look for you, but I can't see you at all." I said, "Okay, well, keep walking this way and tell me when you can see me." And like I said, looking for me, they got to about 3 yards away from me before they could see me. And that was
the
them
only reason
knowing.
I saw him was the reflection off his sunglasses.
And that was them knowing exactly where I'm at.
If I didn't know he was there, I'd have been on top of him before I would have seen him.
So, and I easily had 2.5, maybe 3 feet on either side of me, and probably another 1.5 to 2 foot above my head of room. And I don't know how much room was behind me. Could you tell?
Maybe another
is there something a lot bigger than me could have fit in there? And like I said, I'm 5'9", 260. Not exactly the smallest person, not the biggest, but not the smallest either. And I had plenty of room in there to move around. So something a lot bigger than me could have gotten there and crouched down.
Kevin Bode wanted to know if you smelled anything in there.
No, but if you watch the show Wednesday night, Dark Waters asked me that question. There was a lot of milkweed and cedar and things like that in there, which predators are known to use stuff like that to mask their scent. So I didn't smell anything, but that didn't mean that it wasn't there. So anyway, while DA and Noah are standing out there, we're talking, and I'm still sitting down there. I look down, and right in between where I've got my arms down there, I'm seeing something, and I'm thinking I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, but I am seeing what I'm seeing. So I start moving leaves, and DA's like, "No way." Because he sees me moving all these leaves. He said, You didn't find another print, did you? I said, "Y'all come in here and tell," and I didn't give them any information. I didn't say, "Look at what this." I just said, "Y'all look at this and tell me what you see." And DA looks in, he says, "That's a freaking paw print." Now, it's hard to tell because that was the high up angle, but that's this knife right here. So you see how big
you can see the tracks.
Yep. See all 5 toes right there. Now, y'all see how big this knife is? And that thing is
the base pad.
And 3D, no, that's the thing. There, you could hear crows off in the distance, but that's it. But they were off in the distance. They were not around the area. Yes, that's Jolly Roger, David. So yes, that's why I had that one sitting here tonight for that reason. So I can say, yep, that's this knife sitting right next to that. So you can see.
You can see the kind of some of the definition here. I mean, you can see individual toe pads here.
So,
Robbie, what do you estimate the size of that is? About 6 to 7 inches across?
I would say yes. It's probably almost as long or as wide as it is tall. So, because we didn't put the knife across it, but I would imagine that it's almost as wide as that knife is long.
Actually, I think it's a little wider than the knife is long.
And it may be because a lot of that stuff, the leaf litter is kind of obscuring some of that on the picture. So it's big regardless. And I talked to Ken Gerhard and I asked him, I said, "What's the biggest gray wolf track that you've ever found?" He said, "The biggest?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "About 4.5 inches." That's bigger than 4.5 inches.
That's 6, almost 7 inches. And before you ask, no, we didn't cast it. It wasn't very deep. I don't think we would have gotten any definition casting it.
But now I have since talked to somebody since then who has given me an idea that I didn't know this at the time, and I've got to talk to DA and Steve about it and let them know. But even if we'd known it, we wouldn't have had the stuff. Excuse me, wouldn't have had the stuff to do it at that point. Because I said, you want to try to cast it, and the thing is, in the DA's point about that it not being deep, there's nothing to hold the plaster. The plaster's just gonna all run out. But that's the idea that the person gave me. It was Johnny that he and I were talking. He said, "Well, this is what you can do," but we didn't know that then. So you live and learn.
3D Havoc says, "Would that be a back paw? Front paws are longer, right?" I think that was if you look at the pad, the heel pad on that, it was slightly elongated, which has been reported in Dogman tracks. It's almost like it was built for better balance on two legs.
So my personal, and this is just my opinion of what I think it was doing exactly what I was demonstrating to DA and Noah. I think that was somewhere where it was in there crouched down, waiting for a deer or whatever, person, whatever, to come by. That was an ambush spot.
There were fresh deer tracks and several other tracks right there.
And we saw a deer that morning coming in. So we know the deer are in the area.
Here's the video I took of that area where I saw the eye shine the next morning. I'll go ahead and share the screen, and you guys can get a look at that. You won't be able to hear the audio, unfortunately, because it's not in the right format to upload. But if you look, this is if at the very top of the screen, like right up here, would have been up where I saw the eye shine, and you can see my shadow down on the ground. I was standing on a little bit of a raised level, and this spot right down in here was maybe 8 inches lower than the ground I was standing on. I was trying not to step down in there because I could see some partial tracks, and I wanted Robbie to take a look at them before I screwed him up. So I'll just kind of I'll kind of give you the narration on it, but I can't get the audio to play on here. But this is where we saw the eye shine. There's no big branches big enough to support anything, and it was moving where it was like peering back and forth around the brush. So it was definitely moving there. It wasn't just something hopping from branch to branch, because you would have seen that. It was taking steps and then just disappeared as it got to the far right of where we are looking right now.
And Steve had a good question. While you showing that video, Steve said, so here's a question, Robbie, with you going into that den, do you think now whatever the critter lived or stayed in there now has y'all scent, and what are the chances it might try to track you due to y'all being in its area? That's
entirely possible.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. But that's kind of the risk you take when you go do this kind of stuff.
But I live about 40 miles away from where we were at, so
and I live about 740.
And if it followed us over multiple highways, and I didn't go straight home.
So if it follows me home, then props to it. It's going to go a long way to get a bullet.
Something else we found on the shore right there, not far from where those tracks had been destroyed. Robbie actually found this, and we don't know what to make of it. I mean, it's weird. Sure, it could have been a person that made it. It's just curious. It's just this weird little stack of rocks with a bolt on it and a chunk of wood right next to it, just like it'd been placed there.
And that bolt was actually standing up. You see how it's standing up now? It was knocked over. But when I found it, the bolt was standing up just like it is right there.
You could, sure, it could have been somebody stacked it like that. I'm not saying, people don't stack stuff. It was just weird. We don't know why that was there. This area right here, I don't know. Oh, hang on. Let me see if I've got a better picture of that area. But that area right there is where they had just a couple weeks before, they were building some sort of dock. I'd heard rumors they were trying to reopen Joe Bald. They were building a marina right there. And when we got down there, it was all gone. I was absolutely freaking out that it was completely gone. Apparently,
Wait a minute. So they started building it and then took it all down?
Yeah, they were building a marina right there where those tracks were at. Let me bring up the pictures of those. Let me find it. Hold on. Find a good one. You can kind of see the water in this one. Again, not the best picture. I wasn't taking pictures of the lake. I was just taking pictures of where we've got the tracks. If you went straight out from here up out into the water, they were building a dock out there. Noah and I were down there. I thought I had pictures of it, but I cannot find pictures that I'd taken when we were down there that shows the dock. But there was probably a dozen guys down there constructing what looked like it was going to be a marina. They were anchoring pylons into the water. They were doing a lot of this work from a floating barge, and they were assembling floating sections. What was going to be a marina, and I was like, "Are they opening Joe Bald?" So I started asking around, and there was plans to try to reopen the campground again. And then we went down there that night with Robbie, and every bit of it was gone, 100%, all of it gone. Almost like it had never been there,
except for a few little trace.
Yeah, we found that piece of power conduit, and
then the PVC pipe that was snapped.
And it's not like these tire tracks were done by the construction crew that took that out, because these tire tracks were not there the night before. They were not there when we found those tracks, and none of that marina was there. Yeah. It was all gone.
There were 0 tire tracks there when we were there the night before. Those tire tracks showed up after we left and before we came back.
So, absolutely bizarre.
Yes, somebody didn't want us there to cast those tracks, is what we were guessing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think that truck down there either did it or had somebody come in and destroy it.
I don't think that truck did it, because the more I think about it, I think that truck had 4 tires on the back, had 2 duals on the back. I think it probably called somebody in there to do it, but I don't think that truck did it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But just it adds to the weirdness. I mean, why would somebody come down there just to destroy those tracks? Because that was not the parking area where we were parking the vehicle. That was down through the rocks and down to the shore of the lake. You could easily get stuck down there if you weren't being careful.
Mm-hmm. Or if you didn't already know what was in that area and where to go. If that's just some random person driving through there. Because you think about it, even the people that were there when we got back that day, they drove off the parking lot, but they were way up above where those tracks were. Because that mud pit, that little track trap down there, that was about 2 inches from the water line.
Right. Dude. Oh, let me pause this. Hold on. I've got to go back down there. I just spotted something in one of the. I was previewing one of the videos before showing it up. Let me see if you spot what I spot in this video, and see if anybody else spots it. Sonny Morgan says, when you guys came back, was the white van still there? No, it was gone. This is a video I took that day we went down there to cast it, and I saw something in the image that I missed while we were down there. Okay, so watch this area kind of at the middle bottom of the screen, and I will pause it when I see it. You ready?
Okay.
Right there. Did you see it? Let me back up.
We're back up.
With my shadow, there's a canine track right there in my shadow, and it looks to be good size. I didn't see it when we were down there. I looked right over that. Looks to be 2 of them.
Yep.
Hmm.
I see 'em.
Let me see if I can zoom in on this at all. Yeah, it won't let me zoom in. It's a video. It won't let me zoom in on it. Yeah, but if you look at this area right here,
I see it.
there are 2
Yeah, I
canine
see it.
tracks that I didn't see. And look how splayed out the toes are. God dang it. I wish I'd have seen that while we were down there. I would have cast that. Because that's
Well,
fairly deep. It's deeper than the track you found in the bushes.
Yeah.
I completely missed that damn track. Son of a biscuit. But anyway, this is the video I took right down there. And this is the same area where the tracks were. The big ones that we were going to cast. That's where those tire tracks are. And the marina would have anchored right there. That would have completely anchored in. You know, here's a thought. And maybe they weren't building a marina. What if they were building a trap? The only thing no one I could think of that they might be building was a marina because it was in the water. What if they were trying to trap something?
It's a possibility.
These
A
were
big damn
footprints.
trap.
You can see where they've been kind of washed out. Yeah, I can't believe I missed those canine tracks. Yeah, maybe they weren't building a marina at all.
Miss Moon says, do we think that we're on the government's radar?
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, considering those vans, had 24-hour service, but no business name, no phone number, it's not much of an advertisement.
Right.
And
But it looked like a generic, just
Okay.
utility van
what 24-hour service is needed in Joe Ball?
with no
There's-
electricity.
There's no electricity. There's no plumbing.
No plumbing,
There's no houses. There's no.
no internet.
And we were talking about this before we came on air. Maybe if it's just one down there that ran a service call somewhere close to that and was like, I'm just gonna pull over in here and do my ticket and whatever. Okay, maybe I could get by with that one, but 2 of them, and one of them being on patrol basically, and the other one just, I don't know what kind of service ticket that would take over an hour to sit there and write, because like I said, it was there prior to our arrival,
Yeah.
and was still there when we left.
Yeah, they were there for quite a bit.
Yeah, Toom said we're on the van's Christmas list now. Yeah, probably. They're probably listening to us right now. Hey, guys.
Yeah, more
I
than
guess I'm
likely.
kind of glad I didn't go with y'all.
David said, "Did we notice the plates?" Yeah, we noticed plates, but not the plates on that van.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Right after we got through that area where Robbie found the track, we took the pictures.
Now we
with the
found
knife.
that before we found the track.
Right. Well, we were walking back up down the asphalted area toward where the car was parked, and I looked up in the bushes and I saw something in the leaves. I'm like, what the hell is that? And Robbie looked over and was like, I don't know. I said, I don't know what that is. So he went up there and checked it. And let me see. I don't know if I've got that on video. It might have been in that same video. Hold on. Let me go back to that video. But anyway, you're the one that found it, Robbie. So go ahead and tell them.
So Noah actually had seen something shining in the woods, something reflecting, whatever, earlier. And I made a mental note of where it was at, and I'm like, I'm gonna get back over, because I saw it too. And I said, I'm gonna get back over and figure out what that is. So after we go over there and find the tracks and all that stuff, we work our way back around, and that's when I guess you hadn't seen the reflection earlier, because I think you were doing the live and you didn't see it, because me and Noah were kind of standing away from you when we noticed it. And that's when you said, what is that? And I said, I don't know, and I'm gonna go up there and find out. So before I get to that, I walk into I'm real methodical when I'm going in that that tracking mode, so to speak.
Well,
So
you're working a scene.
yep. So before I didn't just go, we were on the asphalt and then step on the leaf litter into the actual woods itself. Instead of just going the, 30, 40 yards up to where it was, I start looking around the area first. And I look down and I see something kind of shining and it catches my eye. I reached down and I found a pair of safety glasses that had been had the arm snapped off of it. Okay, that's not really. It is what it is. Could have been anything,
Right.
but still kind of curious when you start looking at the totality of the situation. So find that, and I found some. I can't remember what it was. So a wrapper or some kind of something. So I keep on looking, working my way up to it, get up to what was originally making the shine that caught our attention, and I flip it over, and it's a license plate. Still attached to the front cover that the plate attaches to. That plastic cover had been ripped off the bumper.
Right.
So like the bracket that it mounts to.
Bracket,
it was a current tag.
And the front tag for car. And it was the tag doesn't expire till June of next year.
No, June of 25. It had just been bought this year.
Oh, yeah, June of 25. Sorry.
So they bought it in June of this year.
Right. And
yeah,
it had been
half the people in this area don't even register their cars. Who would throw away a tag with brand new license on it?
No kidding.
And rip half their car off to do it.
Yeah, that was not a inexpensive loss. It's not cheap to replace tags. And it was in the trees. It wasn't like right on the road. I don't know how the hell it got down there. There's no way they could have driven into those trees. They were too thick.
Some things you can explain away, coincidence, happenstance, whatever. But that's one of the things. Is like, why? You just can't really.
Right.
I mean, if it was a stolen tag that somebody stole to put on their car, why go to the effort of ripping everything off and then throwing it away?
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I can see them taking the mounting bracket with, if they use like a crowbar or something, just so they don't have to take the time to, unbolt it. But I don't know.
But it didn't show any. It's not like the front of this thing was in a wreck and it got damaged and fell off. The tag itself, it was nothing wrong. It wasn't bent. The plastic around the outside of the bracket itself, the front part of it was fine, but the back of it where it mounts to the car, that's what was broken and ripped off.
Right. So it had, but it wasn't like damaged from like being bent. The mounting bracket had been broken, but obviously it wasn't like it was in a collision.
And Casey, no, there's the only thing that I had access to was my South Carolina DMV, and it wouldn't have ran a Missouri tag. I could have called my dispatch and had them run it, but I don't think whoever was dispatching that night would have. If I call in and they know I'm in Missouri, what are you running a tag for? So no, I didn't run it.
Yeah, you can get in trouble for just doing that, just as
because here's the thing:
for yourself.
If I run that tag and it comes back stolen, then I've just involved myself in something. When I'm in Missouri, way out of my jurisdiction. So no, that's not a good idea to.
And if there's a warrant attached to it, at the bottom of the warrant, it says law enforcement shall arrest. It doesn't say should arrest. It doesn't say could arrest. It says shall arrest. So if you run that and there's warrants attached to it, you've got to start paperwork.
Mm-hmm. So that's just.
What if it's kind of a morbid thought, but Table Rock Lake is certainly deep enough to disappear somebody's car.
Yeah,
with them in the car.
I don't think they could have at that particular spot because that
Well,
water was fairly shallow for a little
Yeah.
ways out.
Yeah, it's a
There
boat
is a
dock
boat
area,
ramp
isn't it?
down there. Yeah, there's an old
Yeah.
boat ramp area down there.
I think Jeff's got a really good point. Something collecting trinkets, tags, bolts, shiny things.
There was a piece of power conduit down there too.
Yep. And then the piece of white PVC we found that was 2-inch PVC that was just snapped.
Yeah.
Like something did that.
Sorry, send a message. Okay. Sorry. I was a little distracted. Yeah, I know we've got the video of that somewhere. I just can't find it. I don't know. It may still be on the DSLR camera. I may not have moved it over. But there, we had a video of Robbie holding up that tag. So I know I've got the tag number somewhere. I just got to find it. I'll get that to some folks I know and see if I can't get some information. Jeff Bridges said the safety glasses too. We found those busted safety glasses, and also down there by where your track was at the base of a tree was a chunk like a torn chunk of a high visibility T-shirt.
Yep, yeah, I forgot about that.
It was like bright orange, and that's why I spotted it. David says it was on the live. Okay, I'll have to go back and pull the number off the live, or if one of you guys wants to pull the live. We can do that even while we're still on here. But that same night wasn't all the weird shit we found. And I'll get back more to what we found during the day when we were down at Joe Bald the next morning. But that night after we left Joe Bald, we went down to Blunk Road where I set Beast of Blunk Road because there's all kinds of weird sightings down there. And we pulled down there. And if you guys watched the Dark Water episode, you heard us talking about this. But as we're driving down the road down toward the where the river meets where the road ends at the river, I'm seeing something up ahead in the road on my bright lights. I'm like, what the hell is in the road? And I'll just show you the video and see if you guys can figure out what this is. I know Robbie and Noah and I figured it out pretty fast, but we parked the car, went back up there, and I filmed it. So let me see what you guys think here.
If you're squeamish, you might want to look away.
Yeah, if you're a little squeamish, this might freak you out. I kept hearing something over there on that side of the road, so I kept panning the camera over there. I caught eye shine, but you couldn't see it on the camera. The reason why we didn't live stream this part is because there was no internet signal down there. We tried and it just kept dying. That is a deer's head in the middle of the road.
Severed deer's head.
A severed deer's head. Just the head. You can see where the soft tissue around the mouth and the one of the eyes is gone, and there's even a chunk taken out of the ear. But that is not a clean cut. It wasn't just like sliced off. It was a pretty jagged cut. Robbie lifted up the skin with his knife and looked at the neck, and it was a pretty ragged wound. So if somebody did that, if a person did that, they had to hack at it. It wasn't like a quick, like they cut it off with a machete in one swipe or cut it off with an axe. It took multiple blows to get that off.
Yeah, I think it'd be about time to nope the fuck out of there, gentlemen.
Oh, that ain't all that we found, Steve.
Yeah, I kept seeing eye shine back in that section, and whatever.
Initially, I was sorry I missed that, but now I'm not. I'm glad y'all went by your own.
You ready for the other part? Again, if you're squeamish, this may not be the video for you.
That day I worked all day the night before and I've been up for over 24 hours, so I decided not to go with these two idiots. Three idiots.
Wyatt, Estes, we had that exact conversation. He said, remember what Clark, trust me, the three of us had that conversation. We were like,
And yeah, granted, it is deer season, so there is people hunting down here. That's the skin of a deer, and it hasn't been like skinned like you'd use the knife. It was pretty jagged, and there is a completely but the rear legs had been torn off and were gone. There's the head, the front legs, the rib cage, the spine. No gut pile. If somebody had killed that deer as a deer hunter, had killed that deer and cleaned it out down there and cut the meat off, number one, they wouldn't have had anything to set it on to cut the meat off to keep it clean. The other part about that is, where's the gut pile?
Right. It's the first part you take out.
There's no gut pile, but there were the remains of what, 3 deer down there?
Yep, at least 3 that we could positively identify.
The skeleton, you could see the entire back haunch had been torn off, like both hips, the hip bones, both legs, and the last like 6 inches of the tail. The 6 inches of the spine. It was all gone.
I have been a deer hunter my entire life. I know you have too, DA. I field dress deer in the field, which is where the name comes from. I've never left stuff like that. If I'm getting meat, there's usually leave the bones in the meat.
Yeah.
You don't usually strip the hide off and leave a freaking skeleton just laying there. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the whole purpose of the meat is to move the bones. That's
right.
That's why we have meat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not de-ribbing my meat out there on the kill site.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you've ever broken down a deer, you're going to do it on a good workbench, because if you did it on the ground right there, oh my God, your back is going to be done. Not
to mention, you're probably going to ruin a lot of the meat by being on the ground like that.
Right. Unless you're washing it immediately, you're going to ruin a lot of that meat being in the dirt.
And what we didn't mention about the second head that was in that video, possibly because the first one, obviously it was a buck, because you can see somebody and I say somebody on this one because the horns were cleanly cut off, but that was all that was clean cut on that. Everything else,
the other head.
Yeah, that's what I was
about. Robbie, didn't mean to step on you. Yeah, no. I completely forgot about that. You tell him, but
yeah, that's what I was
didn't mean to step on you there, but I just completely crap, I forgot that part.
That's what I was going to. So I was, the first head, somebody had cut the antlers off that head, and somebody did it because it was clean cut, like a saw or something like that. But that was the only thing clean about that. The neck was not a clean cut. The lower jaw area was not clean. Nothing about that was clean except where the horns came off. So then go to this other head we found out there, and its neck is in the same shape. And I'm assuming it was a buck too, but it looked like something had just grabbed a hold of where the antlers were and ripped them off and left a big hole in its skull, and all the brains and everything was gone from the skull cavity.
Yeah, the top of the skull was not cut out. It wasn't a smooth cut. The top of the skull had been broken off, and the brains were gone. So I don't think it was brain tanning, because the hide was laying just a few feet away.
There was nothing but 2 heads and a skeleton. There's no way to tell if there was any kind of trauma from a gunshot, unless if somebody did shoot it, it happened to hit a bone. There was nothing. The only things that were left that you could tell any kind of significant thing on with the 2 heads. Everything else was just a hide and the skeleton.
Randy Petticourt says, "Could a human have done that?" Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, yeah. I won't say it's impossible.
Yeah, we're not saying that
if a human did that, they processed that thing in a very bizarre way.
Yeah, like I said, I'm 49 years old, and I've been a deer hunter my entire life. I've watched my dad and plenty of my friends and uncles, and I've participated in processing a deer. I ain't never seen a deer processed that way in the field. I've never seen anybody completely de-hide a deer and leave the hide laying in the ground. I've never seen
Well,
anybody
I
cut
know
just
lots
the
of people
back
use
legs
those
off,
hides.
cut just the back legs off, and leave the front legs with fur still on them, and the nothing else but the skeleton.
Jeff
Because the
Bridges
front
says some
legs were
people
still
take
there.
brains for tanning. Again, I don't think this was a case of the tanning because the hide was laying like 3 feet away, and the hide had not been taken like how you would carefully cut along the legs and everything to get the hide off. It wasn't done done that way. That hide was in tatters. Yeah, but again, I won't say 100 with any degree of certainty that this couldn't have been a person. It very well could have been a person, but if it was, they treated that kill very differently than I've ever any deer I've ever dealt with.
And we're not saying it was 100% it was done by a Sasquatch or a Dogman or anything like that. What we are saying is it was really, really strange because I've rode with some of my DNR buddies up here in South Carolina, game wardens, Department of Natural Resources, and I've seen poachers. I've seen what that poachers do. I've seen things like that. I've never seen it done like that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that was really, really weird. And maybe I just haven't seen it and it is something, but you thinking in 49 years and 27 of those being as a cop, you hear something like that. And I've never heard or seen anything.
And I still
being
can't
a
figure
hunter,
out why someone would leave a deer head in the middle of the road.
Hmm.
I can understand maybe scare somebody, leave it in the middle of their driveway to mess with them, but that is in the middle of nowhere. The odds of somebody
it's a lot of
randomly coming by is pretty slim.
well, yeah, that's a lot of random effort for dumbfuggery. I was just reading about deer kills of black bears and mountain lions, and it doesn't fit the profile of either of those either. So
Yeah. Griff says possibility of poachers getting rid of evidence. Again, yeah, completely could be person. It was just weird that we found a deer head in the middle of the road and the condition the other two bodies were in. Because it was just bizarre. I mean, yeah, it's
yes, Randy, that's what I was just saying. I've never seen deer process, and I'm using the word process very, very loosely. I've never seen deer process like that. If it was in fact humans that did it, I've never seen anything like that in all my.
Griff says he's seen it on back roads. Well, yeah, but usually if you find a back road clean, they'll have dumped stuff, but you'll also find the gut pile. There was no gut pile, and if somebody's gonna go through the trouble of poaching a deer, they're gonna use as much of it as they could, and that hide was just left.
And let's clarify something here. This was not something that had been there days or weeks because there was no maggots.
Right.
There was very little decomp. Steve, how long would it take something like that to start decomp?
Oh, it would start decomping within a couple of days. I mean, within 48 hours, the thing would just reek of cadaverine. Maggots would come in probably in a couple of days.
For us to be able to see that deer head and it not be completely showing, I mean, obviously it was showing some signs of decomp, but that hadn't been there that long. So
no,
probably hadn't been there long enough. If there was a gut pile left, it probably hadn't been there long enough for any kind of little critters to come in and completely take away the gut pile. I mean, like I said, just
all the tissue would be gone off that deer head within 30 days, probably.
Yeah. My estimation, that stuff hadn't been there probably no more than 24 to 48 hours.
Wyatt Estes says poachers wouldn't leave the head in the road. I bet it was thrown out right before you guys saw it. The thing about it is that road dead ends at the river. For someone to have tossed it out and left the area in a vehicle, they would have driven right past us. We didn't pass anybody going in or coming out. There were some people down on the river fishing, but they were out gigging and fishing at night. They weren't down there hunting. They were out on the river.
And they wouldn't be using deer brains for bait.
Right.
It's creepy as hell.
And everybody that's throwing out, scenarios or possible solutions, we're not arguing and saying no.
Yeah.
We're just saying that, this
It
is
was
what we
weird.
saw while we were there. And it was enough to make me think, because if y'all have been around us long enough, you know that if we can debunk it, we're going to debunk it.
Right.
But I personally just cannot see any scenario that I can clearly say, yep, okay, that was human. There was little things in it that, like I said, with the first deer head, the antlers being cut clean off. Little things like that are like, okay, that's human. But there's plenty of other stuff that are like, okay, I've never seen. Look at both the heads there were jagged tear marks. I mean,
now let me play devil's advocate here for a second. I'm not a hunter. I love me some deer meat, but I've never harvested my own. With all the road kills that we see here lately, could somebody have potentially, with a vehicle, knocked the ass end off of that deer, and then highway department, somebody dumped the top part of it out there in the woods?
I have worked a metric crap ton of deer versus vehicle wrecks. I have never, even at high rated speed, I've seen it. Usually the car is what gets the most damage. Deer might die, but they're usually intact. You might have a broken leg or a couple broken legs. Car usually takes the most damage. I've never seen a car tear a deer's head. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen. Don't eat me alive in the comments, because I'm just saying I've never seen a car take a deer's head off in a wreck. And in 27 years, I've worked quite, especially in the area that I live in.
I'm not talking so much the deer head. I'm talking about the deer carcass that you guys saw. They had the rib cage and everything, but the hips and the rear end were missing. Could it, and I'm literally asking this because I don't know. Could somebody have theoretically hit that deer in the ass end, somehow cleanly taken off the ass of that deer, and left the thoracic girdle and whatnot still intact to dump it?
I mean, I guess that's possible.
Yeah.
But I don't see why, if somebody hit it, I don't see why they would take the time just leave it where it lays. I don't understand why that's the part that don't make no sense. Why drag it all the way down there?
Right.
Well, that's true. I mean, if I hit a deer, I'm going to be pissed off that it effed up my car, and it could sit on the road and rot.
Yeah. I mean,
personally,
if you hit a deer up on the highway, you're probably not going to take the time to load it up in your car and drive it down to a dead end road and toss it off in the corner.
I got you.
I mean,
fair enough.
Is that possible? Yeah. I mean, obviously it's possible. I don't understand why anybody would take the time to do it that way. I mean, because it's not like you did anything wrong if it runs out in front of you.
Right. I see what you're saying. No, the head, I mean, I could see somebody trying to decapitate it, very, wait, to say without coming off gross. The head does not come off an animal as easily as Hollywood shows it to. A few years ago, there were videos of people like beheading humans on television. It doesn't go cleanly like it does in zombie pictures.
Right.
So, like I said, it's just really peculiar. And it goes back to that totality of the circumstances again. When you look at everything, just the one deer head in the road, strange, granted, but just that one, okay, it is what it is. But then you add all those other ones in there, and they're in various states of the same. It's just like you get to the point where you can't really write it off and just say, oh well, it's a poacher, or it's this, or you know what I'm saying. It's just you start seeing 2 or 3 of them in that state, because the chances of doing that to one deer, okay, but like I said, there was at least 3 deers there, all done basically the same way. So, maybe it's a poacher, but like somebody said,
Well,
poachers usually want to hide their evidence. They don't want to just leave them.
Well, you know me. My whole role in this is, DA is the writer. You're the tracker, and I'm the skeptic that tries to explain it some other way. Yeah, I don't know. You got like you said. I think somebody else said in the chat too. Yeah, theoretically you could do X, Y, Z, but why the hell would you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, none of this was beyond the capability of a person. A person could have done that. The question is why? I mean, it's not anything that somebody would normally do.
Yeah. And, when you start really looking at stuff like that, and to answer Randy's question, he just said, have I been back? No, I don't. I live 12 and a half hours away. This is me going up to see DA and him taking me out and showing me places. So, no, I have not been back because that's a whole work day for me to drive to go back to see that. Not that I don't want to, and not that I'm not going to come back down there and go up, but just, no, I have not been. But you start looking
at do you think that was a predator's killing spot? Maybe. I mean, it's certainly remote enough.
Greg Ogle says aliens. Hey, it's good you see it, Greg.
Steve, I don't know arguing about what. I haven't seen you argue with me. Steve said he's not arguing, just cop brain at me. I didn't see anything that looked like he was arguing. So,
I don't know.
Like I said,
I consider this a spirited discourse.
Yeah,
no arguments.
Everybody has a right to have their own opinions, and
oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't think that DA and I are arguing with you when we're just saying that any of these things are possible. But there's just when you're out there and you see this, it just is like,
oh, 3D misses my hat. Which hat are we talking about? 3D? This one or the more fashionable one?
What you guys got to understand is most of these things that you're suggesting, we had this conversation when we were standing out there. Well, could it have been this? Well, no, I don't think it was this because this. So we had this. We sat there, the three of us, me, DA, and Noah, sat there and tried everything that we could think of to debunk this while we were out there looking at this stuff. So it's not like these aren't things that we haven't thought of. It's just we can't. Rationally, I can't come to the conclusion of why somebody could they, yes, but why? Like DA said, I can't rationalize why even people were breaking the law, and why leave your evidence out there? I mean, I know how good the game wardens in my state are about finding nighttime hunters. I'm sure there are ones that are that good all over the country. So I don't understand why, even if you're a poacher, why you would do something like that. Because usually, from most of my buddies that are game wardens, they've told me that if poachers take a deer, they keep everything that they possibly can as close to them as they possibly can. They don't leave it because there's a lot of stuff nowadays that it makes it really easy to figure out who shot a deer. I always thought
David Weiss said, "Did you drive past and the head was put out after?" No, we saw the head on our way in.
Hey, got a question. Again, I'm not a hunter. Never dressed a deer. Would anybody who harvested a deer, legally or illegally, leave everything but the deer's ass end? Is the deer's ass end particularly valuable?
Well, there's a lot of meat on the haunches, but if they went to the trouble of stripping all the meat off the rest of it, why didn't they just strip the haunches too?
Fair enough.
KC Calloway says, was that spot behind barriers? No, but it was in kind of a little
draw.
Yeah, a little draw. There was high ground on both sides of us, and then it dropped off down to the river, about 10 more feet down to the river.
So,
and then there was an embankment on our left side, which was probably 10 to 12 feet high.
Yeah. And the area where you kept seeing the eye shine, that kind of went down, but then it went right back up, and that area was we weren't Obi-Wan, we were Anakin. We did not have the high ground.
Yeah, we did not have the high ground. Nathan Finn says, did you inspect the hide for wounds? I did look at the hide, but the hide had not been cut off. They were not, the edges of the hide weren't straight cuts. They were more jagged,
Mm-hmm.
which it almost looked like the hide had been torn off.
Yeah. I bent down and actually looked at it too and moved it around with my knife, and I couldn't find, usually when you skin a deer, for those of you who are not familiar with it, if you're gonna take the hide off a deer, or let's say you're gonna take the head for mountain, you have to do what's called caping it out, and that's when you mount a deer, you don't just cut from here up off and hand that to the taxidermist and said, "Here, do it." You have to cape it out, which is usually, I know that question's there, but so usually you're going to go down about.
You take it to the collarbones, right?
Right down to the breastbone. If on you, it'd be right down to your breastbone, and you're going to cut because they're going to need right around there because they're going to need all that to put on the mount.
Well, that's right. The mountings all have necks. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. And
so
obviously that hide was probably one of those heads, so it wasn't caped out for a mount. So then if you're just going to skin it for like a rug or to tan it or whatever, most of the time you're going to start on the front legs right here, make your little incisions right there where you can get your knife in and start working the actual flesh away from, or the skin away from the bones and whatever's left in there, and you're going to start working it down because you need to separate that, but you don't want to cut it because if you cut it, then you're ruining the hide. Right. So it's not a process that's quick and easy. You got to, and once you work your way in, and you down here and you peel it this way, but there was nothing, no cuts down the center of the belly line.
Right.
It was almost like
that first head too was severed at the first cervical vertebrae. It was
it was about there. There's about this much from here up of the deer was what was left. So obviously that one wasn't caped out or anything. But have you ever watched anybody skin a catfish?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go from that was what that hide looked like. It was like somebody had skinned a catfish.
Takes a little bit of power to do that.
Yeah, and it's not the most efficient way to skin a deer.
No,
I wouldn't think.
And it's not that fast either.
Unless you got
like a lot of damn work.
Unless
you got to do it a lot faster with a good sharp knife. You can do it a hell of a lot faster.
You'd have to have 2 to 3 guys on each side of that deer pulling to have enough force to pull that hide off that deer like that.
Jeff Bridges says it looks like the whole hide wasn't there. They might have a point. The hide might have still been on the rear legs and the haunches.
Yeah, that was
it wasn't a huge piece of hide.
Yeah, that was probably from just above the groin up.
That could have potentially been the hide for what was left of that one deer that was missing the pelvis and everything south. I'm gonna step away for just a second, gents. All right, be back.
3D Havoc says, if an animal was to go for it, wouldn't there be some tooth marks on the bone? I don't know if I saw any tooth marks on the bone, but there were certainly a lot of jagged marks on the bones.
And
I don't know if it was tooth marks or not.
I was also concerned about them people down there on the river. I didn't know because their vehicles were up there. So I get it. They see a car pull in, and so my attention was kind of divided. I wanted to look at that, but also wanted to make sure these guys wasn't sneaking up on us too. But so I didn't get down and inspect the bones the way I wanted to. But what I was able to see, I didn't see anything that looked like gunshot wounds or teeth marks or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't see any bullet holes. Yeah. Obvious bullet holes in any of the bone.
And no, David, the bones weren't scattered. Everything, with the exception of the first deer head we found up on the roadway, everything else was in like a 5-foot circle of each other.
Yeah. Again, I can't say with any degree of certainty that it wasn't a person. It could have very easily been somebody
Oh, yeah.
dropping off the remains of a kill. It's just the way they did it was really bizarre. And again, that skin that hide didn't look like it was intact, and it certainly wasn't taken off with a blade.
Well, I can't. It looks for the most part, the little couple seconds I saw that, it looks like that skeleton, what's left of it, is all articulated. It's still connected the way it was in life.
The front
So,
legs were actually separated from the body, and this front legs still had hide on them.
huh.
There's not much meat on the legs, but if you're one of those guys that uses every bit of it, if you were hunting for the meat, there's enough meat on there you could throw it in a stew.
Yep. And who was it that says about the coyotes? Henry. That's the thing. With the exception of that one head, everything else there was nothing
Right there.
dragged off. It was all right there within a 5-foot circle.
Steve's
So
got a point. The totality of the situation is weird.
that's
Very much so.
exactly it. So
That's
you
why I
have
kept saying that.
two severed heads, one thoracic girdle, missing the front legs.
No,
And
missing the back legs.
The rear legs, the front legs were still laying there. They just weren't attached to the
But
body.
that's what I'm saying. They weren't attached. The front legs were detached from the thoracic girdle. The pelvic girdle and legs are completely AWOL.
Let me see if I
They
can
gone.
bring that up again. And
They gone.
I'll
It's
try
Phil-
to freeze it right on the.
As Phil
spot.
Robertson would say, they gone.
There's
They have de-asked the AO.
okay. I'm going to share this to the screen again, and I will do my best to pause it at the appropriate moments. Here's the hide, and it does not look like. Well, you can see over here looks like part of the tail, but the legs aren't there. The legs were not
Right.
there.
And it's not a whole hide. There's not enough
Yeah,
of it.
that is not a whole hide. There's not enough hide there.
Mm-mm.
And when we get over here, sorry, my flashlight was trying to die.
And this is down Blunk Road, right?
Yep, that's down at the end of Blunk Road. There we go. You can see the front legs over here. They're both completely detached from the body. The head is still connected to the neck bone.
You can see the hole in the head right there, DA. You see it?
Yep, right there.
I know you can't.
Fuck.
Top of the head is busted open. It was not like had it been sawed off with a for a mounting, because I've sawn off ones before to mount the antlers before, but this wasn't like that. It was it looked like it had been broken off. The pieces of the bone were jagged. It wasn't a smooth cut, and the back half of it is just completely gone.
Well, and the front legs you're still missing the shoulders.
Yeah, and you can see there
The front legs
it
are
just
severed at the
ends.
humerus.
Mm-hmm. And there's still quite a bit of meat on those front legs.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if you
But I'm saying
really wanted it for the meat, there's quite a bit of meat right there.
There's still a bit of front legs missing now. I mean, if it laid there just unevenly decomped or whatever, you're still missing the shoulders and the top end of the humerus.
Yep.
That's just weird as hell. I don't know. You're gonna have to make my ass itch. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, they can really see into the skull cavity.
And Toombs has asked a very good question. Were there any problems with batteries draining? Yes, they were.
Yes.
My phone went from 80% before we went into Joe Bald to almost dead.
And my flashlight and Noah's flashlight, which are rechargeable lights that had recently been charged, and one was my old TLR5, my old duty light, and it held a charge for quite a while, and it died within about 20 minutes down there.
Interesting.
It was this one right here, 3,500 lumens, and I would charge this thing and carry it for a month or two on patrol, using it almost every night before I ended up having to charge it again. But you can see. Let me show you. Watch my camera here. Let me stop sharing the video. Watch this. This is kind of funny. It just kind of whites out the camera. It's how bright this thing is. 3,500 lumens. And it's stupid bright.
Randy, I can't see the rest of your name. Yeah, Randy, they no longer allow any camping out there. That's part of the problem. You can fish, but there's no camping allowed.
Henry White Jr. says, I'm disabled and I can snap a hide without a belly cut. Rock rope ATV comes off in about 10 minutes. There weren't any tracks where they'd used anything like that. I'm not saying somebody didn't do it. It could have easily been a person. It was just really bizarre, the circumstances. And to find that head just in the middle of the road kind of set the tone the whole time we were down there. It was just really bizarre to find this head just laying in the road. I mean, as we're driving down there, my headlights hit it. I'm like, what the hell's in the road?
So, like I said, yeah, we're not saying that it absolutely was not done by a human. It's just really weird. And
yeah, that if it was if a person did it, it's just really bizarre.
And to answer your question, Henry, I just said a minute ago that I know you can de-hide a deer by hand, but why would you? Number one,
yeah, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, you know, it's a whole lot easier if one person is going to do that. You can cut it and take it off in no time if you got it hung up and ready to go.
Roxanne, there, yes, the rib cage was intact.
But it's just, why were things done the way they were done? That's what we're asking. We're not saying that, yeah, it was a Sasquatch. Yeah, it was an Ozarks Howler. Yeah, it was Dogman. We're not saying it. We're just saying, if it was
whatever it was,
why was it done this way? Because it's not the question is not can you, it's why would you?
Right. There's much easier ways to get that accomplished. Randy Petticoat says, can you fish all night in that location? Yes, you can. Yeah, you can fish all night in Missouri. In fact, there were people out there on the river fishing while we were there. We could see them out there. We could see their gigging lights on their boats.
And Steve, to answer that question, yeah, but I don't think it was out there long enough for all the little rodents and critters to have at it. Like, I think it'd only been out there 24 to 48 hours.
Well, the head in the road had some of the soft tissue missing on the nose. One of the eyes was gone. I didn't lift it up to see if the other eye was there, but one eye was missing, and there were chunks out of the ear. So something had definitely got at the soft tissues on that, but the softest tissues would have been the jaws, and those were still there. David Bice says, hope he took him to Lambert's. We didn't go to Lambert's. Next time he's in town, we're going to Lambert's, though. 3D Hawk Lambert still throws rolls as of the last time I was there. Because I watched a lady at a couple tables down take one to the side of the head.
See, the trick there is what you do is you throw yourself into it so it hits you in the head, and then you get a free meal.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh my God, my eye. However, if you go in there and it's your birthday and you show them your ID, you eat free.
Yeah, their meals are about ridiculous. They're not for the health conscious, that's for sure.
Right. That 3D Havoc says, look alive. Yeah, if you go in there and you hold your hand up for a roll, you best be paying attention.
Yep. Yep. I particularly like the fact that you can order a slab of ham with a cigar, and that's one of their meal deals.
That's pretty funny. Steve Padden says the weird thing is the front shoulders don't actually attach to the rib cage or spine, which could be why they're still there. Yeah, but if they come off that easy, like it shows in that picture, when I froze frame, there's quite a bit of meat on the upper arms of that. I've got a super chat from Casey Calloway. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you.
Yeah, I've never butchered a deer, but I mean, on a cow, there's a lot of meat in the shoulders.
I'll be right back.
All right, man. Sorry, I was looking to see if I missed any questions. Yeah, I think Noah and I are probably going to go back down there this week, especially now that I know I missed some canine tracks that the vehicle tracks didn't hit. If I can go down there and those are still there, I've got the plaster of Paris and everything now. I'll completely cast them, but hopefully they're
Well,
still
well, I'm off Monday and Tuesday, DA. So if you need
okay.
a wingman or a corroborating witness,
An
let me
extra
know.
firearm.
Yeah, that too.
3D Havoc says, "Did y'all camp out there? You can't camp in the Joe Bald campground. They will run you out of there. At least you're not supposed to. I have had Stone County Sheriff's deputies come down there and ask me what I was doing in there late at night. So it says no camping. It's day use only. You're supposed to be out of there before dark. Um, but there's a boat launch there. It says the boat ramp is accessible 24 hours a day. So I suppose if you're even fishing from the shore, they probably wouldn't run you out of there. They just wouldn't let you camp." David Bice says, "Where's Kenai?"
He's
Steve
he's
Padden.
he's hanging out with the missus.
Steve Padden says, "Which is weird by something or someone didn't take them along." Exactly. If they went to that much trouble to collect all the meat, even off the rib cage, then why didn't they take those legs? Because there was meat on them. Casey Calloway says, "Can you use a pontoon and stay on the lake all night?" Yeah. There's no law that says you have to get off the lake at sundown. Mrs. Moon just became a member. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember what else I was gonna talk about. So the next day, that same day when we were down there during the daylight hours, um, I thought I'd explored every part of that park. I found there's an access road that I'm like, I don't think I've ever driven down this road. So I turned and went down this road, and I don't know if it had been overgrown before or what, but you could see on the road that the leaf litter and everything had crept in to where it had actually taken up a good chunk of the road. So it was like driving down a path. Why it says, "Ready to get on the lake with you, DA?" Hey man, if you got a pontoon boat, let's do it. I wish I
Thanks
had a
for the
boat.
super chat too.
But so we drove down this access road, which went over into a section of the park that I was pretty sure I hadn't driven down before. And when we started to pass this one picnic area, I looked back and I'm like, "Hey, what the hell is that out there in the trees?" And you guys know I've had some health issues. I was starting to get a little bit out of breath. I've been pushing myself a little bit, so I pulled off the road, and Robbie and Noah went to check it out. I stayed in the car because I was catching my breath. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm telling my wife, no, honey, I'm not pushing myself too hard. I took a moment to catch my breath and cool off a little bit. But Robbie and Noah went over and checked it out. And Robbie, you want to tell them what you found?
Well, like we said earlier, this is primitive. All these campsites are primitive.
No electricity to any of the campsites in that park. Even when it was open, there was no campsites that had electricity. There are also no pole lights throughout the park. Like you'd see on the street corners. None of that anywhere in the park.
So, we're driving through. DA looks off to his left and says, "What is that?" And I look, and I immediately said, "It looks like one of those big green transformer boxes." And Noah said, "Well, maybe it's like a upturned porta potty or something." Because like I said, I'd never been there, so I'm not thinking was not supposed to be an electrical box there. I'm just thinking, okay, that's what it looks like. So, like he said, Noah and I get out and we start walking up to it. And the closer we get, I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly what that is. See a little number sitting on the side of it. It says 25. Noah and I get up to and look, and clearly marked on the top of it, and those big green box with the big orange letters on it that says, "Danger, high voltage wire, do not open." And it's turned up on its side, and so I'm like, okay, well So now, I'm going into, as Steve talked about earlier, going into cop brain, and I'm starting to try to investigate. I'm like, well, I don't want somebody to drive it out here and try to gut it, and that just doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking that, and I look down as me and Noah are talking, and I see 3 big, thick, 2-inch, 2.5-inch diameter power wires coming out of the ground. I thought, I wonder if those are just laid there. So I started kicking them, trying to move them around. No, they were underground power cables. It wasn't just wired; it was laying there. These things were buried power cables.
It was an operational transformer box.
At some point,
to a park that had no power to any of the campsites. And on the way out, we found another one.
And we didn't get out and look
that
at
one.
that
Was
one.
still intact.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been tampered with. Wire 2, and these were like bigger than the power box on my house, like the meter and everything. These things were probably 2.5 by 3 feet by about 3 feet tall, big steel boxes for power conduits. There was nothing they were running power to. One of them was kind of close to the old area where you could, when you could take your RV up and dump the septic tank and top off your water, but that doesn't require power. There was a smaller junction box up near where the old ranger cabin was, like the park office. And go on down. That whole building's gone. But there's still a little power junction, and it's a little bitty one, like you'd see at the side of a road for a house. The others were massive.
It's how we power the force fields.
Yeah. 3D Havoc says, didn't y'all talk about a theory of a government secret facility being out there in some past show, or was that another area? That was that area. Jessica Jones remote viewed the area and said there was something out there underground. Those big power junction boxes would kind of give credence to that. Now, whatever's under there has got to be not functional anymore, because those power boxes, one of them had been knocked over and gutted. People, meth heads stealing copper wire. But the other one didn't seem to be functional, but it was still intact.
DA, somebody had asked if there was pictures, and I think I had forgotten to send you those pictures. I just sent them in the co-host chat of the power box.
Okay, let me. I'll bring those up. And these were found near one of the campsites. And again, these campsites don't have power to them. None of them do. They've got stuff where you can hang your lanterns, but no power. And this is what we saw from the road. This is the one that had been gutted. The other one was still intact and upright. Where was the power wires?
Off to the right of that, I think the third picture. That picture, if you sit, looks like a stick. I thought it would turn out better to back up to the other picture. If the top of the box, if you look to the right, what it looks like right there where your cursor's at, yeah, I thought it showed up better, but those were the wires.
So large power wires sticking out of the ground. That thing was connected to something. The question is what? Like I said, in a campground with no power to it. All of the campsites were primitive. Yeah, those are old boxes. And again, that park's been closed for 20 years, almost 25 years. I think it was 1999 or 2000 when they shut it down. Might have been earlier than that. But I think when Steve and I were first researching Joe Bald, we found that had been shut down for good in '99. And apparently, from what a guy that Steve talked to, that I'm hoping I get a chance to, Steve gave him my email address to reach out. They haven't heard from him yet. Steve spoke to a guy Well, shit, Steve, you just tell it. I mean, you're the one that spoke to the guy.
Well, yeah. So he said that. So he kept offering information because he found out DA was a writer, and I was like, oh, this guy's got some interesting things to say. And he's like, well, that park's been closed for a long time right now. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of heard that. I heard, playing dumb, And he goes, there's been a lot of missing persons down there over the years. And I said, oh, really? That's interesting. And he said, well, the Army Corps of Engineers shut that down in the 90s, and they've tried a couple of times. The city of Kimberling City tried to reopen it because, Kimberling City is just east of there. It's like prime real estate. Because every time in the 11th hour, the Corps of Engineers swoops in and shuts the project down. And these are stories that DA and I had heard. And then he told us about a Bigfoot sighting that he and his brother had near there. And he himself was actually on the last committee that tried to reopen the place a couple of years ago. So we were really hoping he'd reach out to us. I gave him DA's address and the information about the show. I wasn't smart enough to get his email address. And I wish I would have done so. I had to be taking care of his wife as a patient.
Eric Testerman says there are old military tunnels all through that area. So underground facility is not that far-fetched. Dude, if you know where any of those tunnels are, let me know. Maybe we could see if we could locate one. It would not surprise me if there's one of them over there at Combs Ferry, because Combs Ferry by vehicle is about 10 miles away, but it's not that far by the lake because you've got to go across the lake and then way around down to Blue Eye, Missouri. The Combs Ferry, however, is a campground like Joe Bald that was also shut down in the 90s. But instead of it just being closed like Joe Bald, they bulldozed off the entrances. You cannot get in there with a vehicle. The only ways to get in there is with a really good 4-wheel drive or by water or on foot. You could go in on foot, but I would want to make sure I've got a way, a method of rapid egress, shall we say. Yeah, Wyatt, if you've got a boat down there, buddy, let me know. Are there caves in that area? Mrs. Moon asked. Yes, this is Missouri. We are riddled with caves. In fact, Silver Dollar City's Marvel Cave is probably 10 miles from there, which is one of the largest caves in the state of Missouri. And they don't know how far it goes. They have not completely explored that cave.
And there's plenty of hinky stuff going on about that cave, too.
Yeah, they used to tell us, I worked security there, and they told us no matter what we heard coming from that cave, we were not allowed to go into it after the park shut down. They said something about air quality in the cave, but the air was fine all day when they were taking tours, but they told us we couldn't go in there at night no matter what we heard. White says, I can get a bass boat, not a pontoon. Well, shallow draft bass boat will run right up on the shore. So, yeah, that would probably work. So, while we got to pause here for a second, just want to say happy birthday to one of our mods, Miss Nimza, Tomb's significant other. Nikki, happy birthday, and I hope you have an awesome birthday, an amazing day, and you are a fantastic part of our crew here, and we wish you nothing but the best. So, everybody in chat, make sure you wish Nimza a happy birthday.
Yeah, many happy returns, Nimza.
Wyatt says, "Got you covered." All right, man. If you want to get into Combs Ferry, we could probably launch right there by Blue Eye because there's a public access. So yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Noah says they'll let you down in the dark if you bring a canary with you. Now we were told to stay the hell out of that cave. I mean, flat out. No matter what you hear in that cave, stay the hell out of it.
That's not ominous at all.
David Bice says, how far to the Fort Leonard Wood campground from Ragnarok? That's on Lake of the Ozarks, so it's probably about, 70, 80 miles away. So that's on Lake of the Ozarks, not far from Osage Beach. So if you look up Osage Beach on the map, you can probably find that Fort Leonard Wood campground area. It's on the map. Casey Calloway says, DA, is this a case of life advertising art or art imitating life? Could be. I mean, I'm definitely going to be using this material in a book at some point. But this is why I started writing about the Ozarks, because weird stuff like this happens all the time. Henry White says, "Be careful if you go back down there. Daylight only. If I go back down there, it's probably only going to be in the daylight, and I will not go unarmed
Or alone.
nor alone." Noah says it's about a 2-hour drive from Joe Bald because it takes us over an hour to get to Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah, Lake of the Ozarks is easily an hour away, and Joe Bald's 45 minutes in the other direction. So yeah, they're probably 2 hours apart easily. Mrs. Moon says 50 cal pew pew. I don't have a 50 cal, but I do have 0.05 smaller. Casey Calloway says, "I remember Clark, his girlfriend, his buddy on a boat in that same lake." Exactly. And the events that they were witness to Joe Bald were literally right there. That was where we were.
Yep. He took me to the spot. Said, "Hey, you remember where this guy got killed in the book?" Yep, right there.
David says, "Yeah, I got my lakes mixed up. No worries, man. There's all kinds of weird crap goes on around Lake of the Ozarks as well. I would like to be able to get Robbie and Doc here and grab Steve and do a multiple day outing up near up near Lake of the Ozarks, especially down on the Niangua branch, where the Niangua River flows into Lake of the Ozarks. That whole area out, I believe it's south of Camdenton. All that whole area is creepy."
Yeah, we don't worry about the marijuana field so much now, Dash. Now that it's legalized in Missouri, nobody in law enforcement cares anymore.
Yeah.
Nimza wants us to come to Australia to do a cave trip.
Oh, heck yeah. I would
That'd be
love
awesome.
it. I think my wife would be down for that one. She's been wanting to go to Australia for a long time.
The only thing that concerns me is we aren't allowed firearms there, and I really don't want to get my ass beat by a roo.
A prison deer.
Prison deer, yeah.
We'll just stick tombs on it.
I watched a video of a snake eating a wombat. I'm like, oh, hell no, I don't want this country. Well, I stand corrected, Nims. Apparently you can't have guns.
Just much more difficult than it is here. I don't think they're going to appreciate me bringing a crap load of them on the plane, though.
Nah, probably not. Excuse me, sir. What do you need that very large caliber rifle for? That little guy? Don't worry about that little guy.
Yeah. You ever seen Quigley Down Under? Well, just call me Quigley. Steve says, "DAI have property at the 69-mile marker at Lake of the Ozarks. Is it rural or are you in town there? Because if it's a rural area, that'd be a great place to maybe set up a camp for a day or two." David says, "Definitely pack your bounty and your boarding axe." You betcha. Tim says, "I'm the sacrifice." No, I just think I'm just confident you could take the kangaroo. I would pay big money to have on video freaking Toombs grabbing a Tyrannosaurus deer and basically power slamming it like a suplex. Like,
oh, my money's on Tombs any day, but still, the roos spare me.
Yeah, my money is on my Bogan brother, the Thunder from Down Under.
Seriously, he's got this.
It'd be like that guy in that video where that kangaroo grabs his dog and a dude walks up there and just jacks it in the face. I could see Toombs doing that. This is her bounty. Yeah, if I go to Australia with that bounty, I won't be leaving with it. Speaking of which, speaking of the bounty, they're on sale. You can find the bounty on the blemished blades. There are multiple available. So if you're wanting to pick up a bounty that may only have like a nick and scratch and get it for a third what they're selling them for, heck, you can get a gunner's mate for $85. And that's easily a third of what they're charging. They're normally like $300 knives. You can find the gunner's mate for like $85, and I want to say that the bounty was like $129 or $149. But you can get a tremendous discount on Scallywag blades right now because they just added a whole bunch of blades, including the one that's discontinued, the Dew Claw. They have Dew Claws available on there. They're clearing out the warehouse of anything that's scratched and dented for the end of the year. So great time to pick up a great Scallywag blade. I checked and they've got multiple, I think 2 or 3 sets of the kitchen knives. I've got a set of those kitchen knives. They are the best kitchen knives I've ever had. Noah's already told me when something happens to me, those knives are his.
Everything okay? Huh? Somebody banging on the door?
Yeah, they're banging on the wrong door.
Steve, you
Are
need
they
some
still out
backup?
there? I might. No, actually, I think I'm all right. There's just been a lot of banging. It upset the dogs. Sorry, I thought I had the line muted. Let me go deal with
No
that,
worries.
guys. Sorry, just a second.
Well, the men in black have tracked Steve down.
Yep. Open door. Are you D.A. Roberts? Nope.
Nope.
Never heard of him.
I'm not. Never heard of the guy. Never said it was a guy. Still haven't heard of him. Pure Blood Prophet says, my wife loves the kitchen knife. They've got a whole set of kitchen knives. Just an absolutely fantastic set of knives. Man,
Yeah.
those things are stupid sharp, too.
And they're really, really pretty, too. I looked at them last weekend.
Yeah, I cut
them?
vegetables and I cut everything with them. Yeah, those are wicked sharp and they're fantastic knives. I'm going to be using those for years to come. They're the best kitchen knives I've ever owned. Ian Kennedy says good night. Good night, Ann. Have a great night. Thank you for being here. Sweet, Pat says Pat sweet dreams. Meg says Pat sweet dreams. I picked up another sponsor. That one guy joined the channel. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
So next time we get you out here into Missouri, we have got to get into Combs Ferry.
I wish we'd, if obviously if it had been up to me, I'd have stayed a lot longer. Because
there's a lot of places we could have gotten into.
Yeah.
But hopefully I'll be able to get in and at least film inside Combs Ferry before long.
Well, hopefully if our little plan comes to fruition that we've been talking about.
Holy crap, we're over 2 hours already. This has blown by.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How about we get a word from one of our sponsors? We'll hear something from little old Doc.
Yep.
And then we'll evaluate from there. So Doc couldn't be with us tonight, but he's here with us in spirit. And let's hear a word from little Doc over at Dark Angel Medical.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to Dax Makina with D.A. Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference. And
remember, if you do get anything at darkangelmedical.com. To use discount code cryptid25 for 25% off your order. And if you subscribe or join the Dark Angel Medical YouTube channel, it's again Dark Angel Medical on YouTube. There are a lot of those training classes available on there for free. And the way things are in the world these days, folks, a medical kit is a necessity. I keep one in my vehicle. I keep one in my camera bag. I keep one in my go bag. I keep one on my plate carrier. It is good to have multiple med kits, know how to use them, and know where they are at all times. But definitely check out Dark Angel Medical. Steve, everything okay?
Oh yeah, remember our neighbors across the hallway, if you will, that I suspect to be amateur herbalists. Well, apparently somebody came up here having a beef with them, was banging down our door thinking it was theirs.
Did they get the business end of something?
Fortunately for them, they were already gone by the time I figured out what was going on and got out there. But I was going to introduce them to my Austrian roommate and his little brothers. But
I don't blame
my
you.
wife, as I'm coming out of the room, goes, "Somebody's going to get shot."
Hey, if somebody's beating on my door, yeah, I'm answering the gun with a piece of hardware in hand. Especially if they're like trying to beat it down.
Oh, they were banging like hell.
Somebody's going to get an unexpected welcome.
I think the sound of Cora barking scared them off because Cora sounds like like Harley when she barks. But I looked at the people, saw nothing, opened the door, looked out, and like, we're good. But I don't.
Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about Scallywag?
Absolutely. And you've heard us mention them tonight. We talk about them all the time. If you're familiar with the books, you've seen or heard ones like the Jolly Roger or the Sailor Assisted Folder, or my personal favorite, the Gunner's Mate. And then DA's got the boarding axe. Folks, these are some of the... This is a knife that just begs to be held. Every knife that they made, you have to put it in your hand. You have to feel it, the quality, the craftsmanship. These are some of the best knives that you'll ever have. And if it ever goes dull, which I doubt they will, but if it ever goes dull, you've still got an impact weapon. Because if you crack somebody in the head with this knife, they're going to think twice. Yeah, they're going to think twice about messing with you. But, the old Crocodile Dundee, that's not a knife. That's a knife. I would put that up against Crocodile Dundee's Bowie any day of the week.
Oh, definitely.
And if you can get this thing for $85 now, you talk about something that would make a great Christmas present to anybody who loves knives in your family. You can't go wrong for that, because if you give somebody that and they don't like it, then there's something wrong with them. And sometimes you can make them personal.
Yeah, Robbie can laser etch anything you want on a blade. He put Wild Hunt on one side and then the Dark Frontiers logo on the other for me.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Tomb says Dundee would trade up for a Scallywag.
I think he would.
I don't blame him. I would too.
I think if Mick got his hands on this, he'd put his Bowie knife down.
I would agree with that.
Because this is just, I saw it and I was like, sometimes you just think, yeah, that's something I gotta have. I gotta have one of those. And the first time I put one in my hand, I was like, oh yeah. Because I am a knife aficionado. I've had just about every kind of knife out there. Schrade, Kershaw, Gerber, Spyderco, you name it. I probably had it, at least one. And in my opinion, there's not one that's better than Scallywag. I mean, there's plenty of knives out there that are really, really good knives. But to get a Spyderco that performs as good as this does for the price that you paid for that you'll pay for this, it's not going to happen. Because for a Spyderco, you're probably going to pay upwards of $300, $400, even $500 for a Spyderco folder. I paid $45 for this one. I mean, and I've had it over a year, and I have never put it on any kind of, and it's still just as sharp as it was the day I got it. And I use this thing every single day. This is my shop knife. This, when I'm home and I'm out working in the shop, this is what's in my pocket. This, as DA likes to call it, is my Sunday go to meeting knife. When I dress up to go out and do stuff, this is because it's all fancy and pretty with its little copper color, but it's just as sharp as that one. And then I've got my Orca that's always in my uniform. That's why I never show my Orca on here, because it's set up with my uniform. It's got the serrated blade or half serrated blade on it. That's my work EDC. And then this one goes in the woods with me. Because I'm going to tell you, if I didn't have anything else, I would still feel comfortable with this in my hand. Because there's something about a good blade, and DA, Steve, you know this, and you'll back me on that. When you got a good blade in your hand, it almost makes you feel as good as having a good gun in your hand.
Oh yeah, you've got a weapon and a tool right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So go to Scallywag Tactical. Definitely go into the blemished blades. Pick you out a couple. When you go to the checkout, use code DA Roberts 10, and you're going to save an extra 10% off the already lower prices that you get off the blemished blades. Tell them we sent you. Go ahead.
Craig says there's going to be a bunch of new blades this year too. They're retiring several, but there's going to be a bunch of new blades this year.
I'm looking forward to it.
And he usually hits a home run every time he comes out with a new blade. I wanted a Dew Claw. I wanted a Jolly Roger. The only ones that I've got left that I want, that I haven't got, and I'm probably not going to be able to get it because I think it's the Spindrift and what was the other one I said that I wanted, the other fixed blade? DA, do you remember which one it was?
I don't know which one it was.
I had it and it just left. Anyway, that's what happens when you get old. I've gotten just about every one of them that when I look through the website, I finally got him. Now he's coming out with new ones. So now I've got a whole new selection, and I'm going to have to go for.
Dr. 45 120 Sharp Rothstein says, Robbie, what type of knife is your woods knife?
Well, what do I like? If you mean like camp knife, if I'm just going camping, is that what he? Because, or if he's asking what I said,
whatever you're going to carry in the woods, be it camping, going out on an investigation, what have you.
Well, obviously, it's probably going to be. There's 3 separate knives that are going to go with me. This one, the Gunner's Mate, my Jolly Roger, and my Dew Claw. Because, like Steve said, weapons and tools. This is going to be in my pocket, so I've always got this. Like I said, y'all saw this is what I had in my pocket when we measured that print. I had my Jolly Roger. I had this on my side. My Dew Claw was on my plate carrier. Now I might swap this one out to my plate carrier now and put the Dew Claw on my backpack, because this is more practical to have on my plate carrier. The Dew Claw is more of that's a good camp knife, chopping up kindling and wood and just doing little things around the campsite that you need to do. This makes more sense to have on the plate carrier. So now that I've got this, I'll probably swap this over. But those 3 knives are, when I go out in the field or go camping, those 3 knives are the ones that go with me. Jolly Roger in my pocket, this one in my Dew Claw. Hopefully that answered the question.
And again, don't forget to use discount code DA Roberts 10 for 10% off your entire order. I put up the
And that
wrong
does
thing.
stack with
There we
the
go.
lower prices on the blemish blades.
Yep. Our other affiliate is Ken Brock over at brockblades.com. Ken's a retired cop. He makes all of his blades custom in a shop behind his house. These are all hand forged. Scallywag blades are fantastic, but they are mass produced. So two gunners mates are going to be identical. Robbie and I are both holding a blade called a skein do. Look how different they are. Every one of them is going to be slightly different. Blade shapes will be slightly different. Handles will be of different material or different colors. Every blade that Ken makes is custom made, hand ground, is hand assembled in the shop behind his house. You can custom order one to your design, or you can order ones that are already available on the website. But no matter what you order, make sure you use discount code Cryptid10 for 10% off everything at Brock Blades. And we certainly are very proud of our affiliates. We've chosen them specifically for a reason, because they're all first responder and veteran owned, and we are huge on supporting our first responders and veterans here. Mainly because we've all been one or the other, or in some cases both. So we're very proud to support our veterans, our brothers and sisters in uniform, our first responders, again, brothers and sisters in uniform. So that's why we chose them. I reached out to a new company tonight, another veteran-owned company. I don't want to say who it is until they get back to me, but there is possibility of a fourth one, and it isn't knife or medical related. We'll just say it at that. And if I hear back from them and things work out, well, I'll tell you all about them. But it is another veteran-owned company, and that kind of brings us to the more sober part of our show. This is where we talk about the 22 a day foundation. I wear this all the time. If you're asking yourself what 22 a day is, you've either not heard the show before, or you don't know too many people that are veterans. But we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. If you look at the Officer Down Memorial page, odmp.com, you'll see the line of duty deaths as well as off-duty deaths of law enforcement officers, and we lose just about as many cops to suicide every day as we do veterans. We need to do better for our brothers and sisters in uniform. We owe them a debt we can never repay. So, if you know somebody that's a first responder or is a veteran or even still active, we'd hope you'd reach out to them and let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know they've got somebody that they can reach out to if they need it, because 22 a day is a lot. And I've seen a lot of friends buried under that flag. I've seen a lot of families handed a folded flag, and it's never anything but a heartbreaking experience. Robbie can tell you, hearing that last call on a radio is heartbreaking. It's a gut punch every time you hear the last call. And if you're not familiar with law enforcement, when an officer is buried, they do what's called a last call on the radio, and it's gut wrenching. It's really hard. There's not a dry eye, I guarantee you. But that's part of why we do this. We're not just trying to encourage you to reach out, but also increase awareness, because 22 a day is 22 too many. Let the people know that you care about that, are first responders or military or active duty or reserves or National Guard, anybody that's served. Just send them a text, give them a call. Invite them over for a meal. You never know when that one little text is what keeps them off the edge. And that's why I'm proud of these two idiots and Doc too. Because we're good at keeping an eye on each other, and we've all had some dark days in the 2023 has not been kind to any of us, and thank God for these guys, because I've been through some rough crap this year, and I know they have too. But one of the things that gives me hope is seeing more and more of you, raising a glass with us and promising to reach out to your friends and reach out to the people you care about, because You never know. Again, that one thing, that one text message, that one phone call might be what pulls them back.
And you never know where it's going to come from.
Right.
I've never served other than being a first responder, but a few weeks ago, I was just, not in a good place. And, I've had, you reached out, I got that, what's up fucker text. And much to my surprise, and I don't even think he knows how significant it was, I ended up getting a text from Toombs, and it was at like 3 a.m, I guess like noon or 3 p.m. for him. But it wasn't quite a "you okay fucker," but it was one of those kind of just checking in things. We bullshit for a couple of texts back and forth. I'm like, it feels good to know that, he's halfway around the world, but he's still reaching out. So, I'm much better now. And having a family that looks out for us really helps,
Absolutely. And, family is not necessarily, blood. Family are the people that stand by you when the chips are down. And we've met some people that I consider family along this journey. Because writing is a journey. Stories are journeys that we take together. And I'm proud that each and every one of you have chosen to take this journey with us. So I want to close the show out with a toast. It's something that we started doing, and I'm pretty proud of it. There's an old song, an old Irish song called The Parting Glass. And it's usually played in an Irish pub at the end of the night, and they're raising the last glass for the night. But if you read the lyrics and you listen to the song, there's a little more heartfelt meaning to that. It's about lifting a glass to those who aren't there to lift it anymore. About saying goodbye to the ones that aren't there, the ones that we've lost along the way. The song's a beautiful song. Again, it's called The Parting Glass. And if you've never heard it, go on YouTube and just search The Parting Glass. There's about 1,000 different versions of it on there. And I haven't heard a bad one yet. But I'm going to close out the show with a toast that's just a little piece of that song. So if you guys will join me in a toast, this is for all our brothers and sisters in uniform, no matter where they are, where they served, how they served, and especially for those that we lost along the way. So, as the song says, but since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Good night, everyone.
Slaunch mates.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Dax Makina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.